Hey guys, welcome to another part of the video. Now we're really starting to get into it here. This is going to focus on the kick drum, EQ settings, compression settings, and even some reverb. Okay. Um, Also to make a point, I'm going to be using the replugs in my Reaper DAW just to show you that you don't need to drop thousands of dollars on these high expensive professional plugins to do EQ. Okay, mastering is a little different. You need to get third-party plugins for mastering, but for EQing, you should be able to use the plugins that come with your DAW. And to prove that point, I'll be using the replugs. So let's talk about the kick drum. Kick drum probably is the most important part of a metal track. It's going to be what drives the song, okay? As any kick drum would. And yes, I know, I spelled it wrong. Definite must-have. You need to have a good kick drum sound. Now, I've seen on forums for quite a while where people complain that, oh, well, they're sampled drums, you know, they're not real, so you're never going to be able to get a good kick drum sound. And this is ridiculous to me because you've spent so much money buying sampled drums, which have been sampled, recorded by professionals in a professional recording studio. Where else are you going to get such perfectly recorded drums? Nowhere. So really, if you're unable to get a good kick drum sound, you need to look this up in the mirror, do some more research online, and learn how to EQ, or at the very least, how to cut frequencies, how to make the kick drum sit in a certain EQ range. So I'm not trying to make fun of you or call you out or anything, but it's not the sample, most likely. It probably is what you're doing or not doing, okay? So let's talk about the kick drum parts. Three main parts. You basically have your low, mid, and your high. But I've named it like your thud, your attack, and your click. Alright, the low part, obviously this is where the boomness is going to be, the thud. This is where you're going to feel it in the mix, okay? Your attack, this is where people will be able to hear that there is a kick drum, and they'll hear every time it's been played, okay? And then you've got your click. Probably the most abused frequency range in metal music ever, the 5 to 7K range, because you can get such clarity out of the kick beater at this point, and the click, which really makes it cut through the mix. If you're unable to boost the lows a little bit because you got a lot going on, you can just raise your click and bam, you're just gonna slice right through, and it'll have a presence in the mix, okay? So let's talk about the big three, I guess, the EQ range. A quick reference, alright? These are the ranges that you'll want to start with right away when you start modifying your kick, alright? And they're just starting points. These are not the end-all, be-all, make a preset, good to go. These are just common places where you can start your mix, okay? So sweep the frequencies and find out in your song where they sound best, because every song will be different, okay? You've got your boom, alright, more boom, okay? And if you boost at the lower end, like at 50, they're basically, that's a modern sound now, but if you go for the 100, it's a more solid sound, kind of like the classic sound, I guess. Your attack, well, more smack, more attack, right? More click, alright? So, there you have it. So just remember that they're starting points, and you can start there. Alright, now, let's go to what I actually start with, okay? These are my settings that I will start with. Every time I open up a track, I'll put these in right away, and I will work from this point. Okay? I got the +6 at 55 for the thud, basically. We just went over that, okay? I take out 9 at 275. This cleans up the kick drum sound a little bit, and also pulls that sound out of that range for the bass, for the bass guitar. All right. I push 7 dB at 3.7 per attack. Then obviously the 6.2 is the click. You can high shelf that if you want, doesn't matter, or you can just have a regular band. It's up to you. It just depends on what your mix sounds like. Okay, so that's my starting point. That's what I put in. That's what I start with. So if we have a look here, I have 2 EQ instances. I have subtractive EQ and additive EQ. For me, that works the best. You know, I'm sure you could have everything on one band, but I just like having them for subtractive and additive. Makes sense to me. So you may be wondering, like, okay, so how does that sound gonna mix? And we're gonna have a look at it right now. All right. So I have the Superior Drummer metal heads. That's Metal Machine. I need metal heads. Whoops. Now, okay, so as you can hear, totally dry, right? Let's turn off my humanize here. So let's listen to it completely dry. Alright, completely dry. It's not a bad dry sound, is it? Okay. Well, now let's throw in our EQ. This is the subtractive EQ and the additive EQ. So let's enable both of those. Okay, and press play, and then I'll bypass them and enable them again. You can hear the difference. So here's everything enabled. Now if I bypass the additive ones, for example, see? Okay, put that back. Now if I bypass the subtractive and press play, bypass the subtractive, you hear it? It's just a subtle difference, but it's not as clean now. But I mean, the difference is night and day, isn't it? So the EQ really does help. Now, I just have one little kick drum line. I have nothing else going on. Obviously, you'll want to mix to fit your song. Don't just throw in the preset and be like, I'm done. That's the wrong way to go about it. You want to mix to your song. Okay, and every song will be different. Alright? So, now we have the EQ settings out of the way. I'd like to talk about compression. So, this is basically a basic light compression setting. Well, really, there are 2 ways to go about it, okay? You can have subtle, light, or really heavy in-your-face compression, I guess. But just remember, compression, we use compression on the kick to even out the dynamics of a human player who plays loud and soft. Well, these are computer drums, so we really don't need to compress the hell out of them, do we? Okay, so you can usually get away with a subtle kick drum compression, okay? So your ratio, you're going to want 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. Your release at 200 milliseconds. And your threshold here, so you're going to want to press play, and then you want to adjust for between 3 to 6 or 7 dB, okay? But it just needs to sound good in the song. So if we press play and have a look, okay, and then enable it. See the difference? That's quite a bit. Okay, so we want to bring the threshold down a little bit. Press play again. Alright, so I like that. Let's go with 10. I like that. It's got a nice punch to it. I think it sounds good. Of course, it always sounds good by itself. Anyway, you still want to look at that in the relationship to the song you're working on. Okay? So that's compression. Now, reverb. Reverb, reverb, reverb. And this would probably be the time that I might say, if you have a third-party reverb plugin, you might want to use it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this convolution reverb. It's really good. It's just really awkward to get used to it. Also, you're able to load reverb impulses. I haven't really experimented with that yet. I just use the reverb generator. But so far I am getting used to it, and I do like it. Okay. There are people who will say, well, you shouldn't do that anyway. You should put all your reverb on an auxiliary track for your drums. I don't like to do that because I like to have absolute control over every instrument. If I want to splice a part of the song and then add super hardcore reverb to make the song more spacey just for like 20 or 30 seconds, that's what I want to do. Okay? But if I want to have a reverb on the whole kit, I don't know, just to my ear, it doesn't blend well together. That'd be like throwing a reverb on your master bus track. I mean, So what I do is I put it on every track and I adjust it accordingly. Okay. I think I do have some. Yeah, I have some settings so I can show you. So here's the light compression settings that we just looked at. If you wanted to do hard compression, you have a ratio of 6:1, 3 millisecond attack, release of 200, and then you want to adjust for 8 to 10 gain reduction. Okay. So reverb. All right. If you've got a third-party reverb and you can load your reverbs, I would suggest like a plate reverb, like a small or a drum plate. Timing 1 to 2.5 seconds with a pre-delay of 20 to 25. Honestly, that's a good overall setting for all the drums in general, so you can start with that setting on each individual piece and adjust accordingly. Like for example, some snare drums usually have some pretty thick reverb on them, right? Or you can go the absolute other route where you have no reverb on your kicks because you're doing the Fear Factory thing. And it's completely up to you, and there are no rules. Whatever sounds good in your mix. Alright? So if we go back to Reaper here, we can look that I added a trim gain stretch, and then I increased the pre-silence. It's like the pre-delay, like the pre-reverb, okay? Pre-delay. So 20 milliseconds. Reverb generator, and let's have a listen without the reverb, and then I'll activate the reverb while it's playing. Okay, let me activate it right now. So as you can hear, the reverb to my ear still sounds odd. I have not perfected reverb yet. I honestly use my Waves R-verb for my drums, but again, to prove that you can use the reverb, I wanted to use it here. So you can do it, and if you keep messing around with it and get used to it and get better with it, I'm sure you'll get a good sound. I just don't use it a lot, personally. So yeah, that's literally all there is to it, to getting your kick drum to sound good off the bat. It's a lot harder than that, obviously. You want to put a lot more work into it, other than just this. There's no humanization going on, it's just the kick. And what you need to do is you need to do all this in context of your song. So you write everything, fantastic, you throw in all your effects, but you really need to do this in context of your song. So if you find out that, hey, it really doesn't sound good when I'm boosting at 55. It sounds a lot better when I boost at 80. Then you should be boosting at 80. And the only way you know that is when you grab it and you just sweep through the thing like this, okay? And you want to go you want to have a ridiculous, like plus 10 or something, and you really sweep through the area. And so you go back and forth from 50 to 100, just like this. And you just listen to your track. Listen to your track and what's happening. Alright? And you'll find that that's the best way that you'll find success. So, alright, so that's been the kick drum. The next video, we'll be talking about the snare drum. Okay? And it'll follow the same format. So, if you have any questions or comments or issues or concerns or found any other spelling mistakes in my slideshow thing, please leave a comment, message me, get a hold of me, whatever. So, other than that, good luck. Hope this has been helpful. See you next video.